One man can change the world with a bullet in the right place.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is the New I.D.P.A podcast, episode 6, I think. Yes, 6. And that voice you're hearing is my brother-in-arms, the bagman himself. How are you, sir? How are you doing?
Let's do it again.
Doing the intro over? What, you didn't like how I came in with it?
No, let's do the podcast again. It was fun last time. Let's do it again.
Okay. Well, you know, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. And as you can tell by the wonderful sound effects in the background, we called in for medical assistance on this one. Member of the BBRN, old friend to everybody here, code name Doc, our residential medical mastermind himself, sir. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. He's actually phoning this one in quite literally, ladies and gentlemen. So please excuse whatever audio difficulties you may be experiencing. But the important part is he's here, you're here, I'm here, and let's talk shooting for the high score. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to get into, along with the concept of firearms and firearms training and stuff, is competitive shooting. And lo and behold, our good friend Doc here just finished doing, quote-unquote, the tactical games. It's a real thing, ladies and gentlemen, although it may sound a little far-fetched, but it's true. It's a real thing. And dusting off the dust himself, the bagman, has just recently did his first competitive shoot as well. So I'm going to pick the brains of these two fine individuals and see what it's like to shoot under time constraints and distances and stuff. And first let's let the people hear how Doc first got into the tactical games, what his training is like, and what other surprises you can look forward to if you are a tactical competitor.
Right, tactical athlete, as I like to say.
Oh, excuse me, tactical athlete, ladies and gentlemen. And gentlemen.
Yep. That's what they say. Well, looking at this, I started really getting interested in competitive shooting years ago, actually with the bagman there himself and some mutual friends. Did the I.D.P.A. Certification. I think it was, God, how long ago was that? 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Never really did much with it. Just shot. It would have been modified duty, I think, is what I followed. Was set up for. I said duty. Anyways, kind of got. I do a lot of stuff with tactical medicine. I'm a SWAT team physician. So the TAC games was a natural fit when it came to training and preparation. So the TAC games involve a lot of. It's so multiple battles throughout a weekend, 2 days. They call them battles. You do weightlifting, running as part of it, and then shoot a course of fire. So you're firing under stress and duress, all while wearing a plate carrier, both rifle and pistol. So.
Whoa. So what are some of the events? You said now, like weightlifting, and what are you lifting in the tactical games?
So a lot of it is sandbags. From 150 to 70 pounds. There's different divisions, obviously, 50-plus masters, elite, intermediate, and then there's actually a beginners, I think it is, where you don't have to wear a plate carrier. There's no scoring, really, for the event. It's just to kind of run it.
Okay.
I never wanted to do that because you're paying an entry fee. I want to be scored. They put you on practice score, so it counts as an event under the practice score programming. And then there's potential of making like nationals if you are in the top 5 of your division. And then you go and compete from there. And there's also different competitions. Like there's a team sniper comp, which is outside my wheelhouse and I'm training for in September. And that'll be more long distance shooting and less physical stuff. And then there's also the team event, which is a one time a year in West Virginia, where it's a 2-man teams and you're carrying axle bars together, 5-mile run, sleds, sandbags, something called yoke bars, which you kind of get underneath and carry, jump over, all that fun stuff. So
it's It sounds like the Spartan Challenge, but with firearms involved.
I think that's probably the most appropriate way of putting it. Yeah.
And how many
And the
times have you
distance-
done this before?
So I did 2 last year. I did an individual in North Carolina, which was my first one. I had an amazing time up until I hit the 5-mile run, and I thought I was going to die, which ended up being a 5-mile walk, but still finished. And then I did the team one last year in West Virginia. This year I did Ohio individual, just this a couple weeks ago. And then coming up in September is my team sniper comp. So it'll be 4 in 2 years.
How do you train for this?
So I've been always kind of more into fitness. Played ice hockey growing up. I've been into fitness and weightlifting for a while. Switched over to CrossFit years and years ago, and kind of wanted to have a direction to take my CrossFit programming, to have a goal for it, and that's what the tactical games became. So I trained. I have a coach who actually writes individual programming for me. No nutrition or anything like that. I'm sure I could be in way better shape if I ate better, but I work night shift, so no way in hell.
Yeah.
But we, so it's just, 4 days a week on average. I do a partner workout, typically with the wife on Fridays. We enjoy doing that together. And then, 3 days a week, other times, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, typically.
It sounds awesome once you get ready for it. Was it
Right.
what was the event or battle, as you called them? What was the
Right.
battle that humbled you the most? Like, what was the I was not ready for this one? Or
Well, as I was talking to Black Bag, actually, ironically, I figured out a training scar that I had. And this is what I love about this. And I think you can take this away from any competitive shooting. And I'm sure the Bagman himself can actually verify this, is that I would shoot, I zero at 50 yards on my rifle, know my drops, my holds. But I went out to 100 yards and just shot a steel plate. I never actually papered my rifle at 100 yards. Well, that affects your holds. I didn't know my exact hold. My plate was a lot bigger than the target I had to shoot at the comp, and that's under duress after you got done pulling a sled, carrying sandbags. So that really affected my score, and every miss is 10 seconds added to your time. So it's pretty substantial for missing. So any of those longer, that 100 yards actually humbled me a lot, because I realized I had a training scar. But again, that's a takeaway, right? That's why you go to classes. That's why you do, like you said before, ahead of the class. Your last podcast was you did a class, and what can you take away to improve upon? The same goes with a competition. It may not have been the exercise that kicked your butt, but it may have been some of the shooting. Like I personally train 15 to 25 yards. That's my, working with the SWAT team. That's kind of my wheelhouse. So I was comfortable and crushed those workouts. Absolutely. I had one where I had 11 misses out of like 80 rounds in the time. Damn. So that wasn't an issue, but it was that long range stuff that hurt me.
You mentioned papering versus steel plate. Is papering
Correct.
referring to scored areas of targeting versus just hitting the steel and getting that ting?
Correct. Yeah, it means so I know exactly where, if I'm aiming center of the target at 100 yards, my round is going to go either an inch high or an inch low, depending on what my zero was. And I hadn't done that, so I'm shooting a big steel target. I could have been aiming at the bottom of the target and hitting just at the bottom of it. But if that was the case, I'm aiming at a smaller target out at 100, I might be missing that.
Gotcha.
So,
Oh, see, the more you know, ladies and gentlemen.
And knowing is half the battle.
So now, what's your prep for the sniper challenge that you're doing?
So right now, from a physical perspective, I'm actually trying to cut down a little body mass and a little weight, and still maintain strength. I have dropped, I think, about 4 or 5 pounds since I got done with the last training set, which has been good. But
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. But just so I can move, because it's a longer distance. So the sniper comp will actually compose of 1 day of kind of small little battles where it'd be like a cold bore shot out at a certain amount. And I'm doing this as a team. I'm actually running gas gun. My partner's running bolt gun. The maximum distance I have is 700 yards at a 2 MOA target. What that translates to is 14 inches at 700 yards.
Holy shit.
So again, I'm practicing on essentially single MOA target at every distance. So up to 300 yards right now is where I'm at. That would be a 6-inch target. That's my goal, to keep that hold on par.
Okay.
So the sniper comp then has a second day that is an entire what's called a movement. It could be 5 to 12 miles that you're doing, but there's stages you're moving to in between. So you're walking or running in your total time. But also those stages will have like a observation station where it's, here's your lane, find the 5 things that don't belong. Like a spoon sitting on a spoke of a wheel or something, like something weird like that. A typical like sniper observation stage, a ranging station, stuff like that. Skills that I personally am not up on, that I'd like to just try and test. So
it's like a tactical Where's Waldo kind of thing where you're looking for the one thing that stands out that shouldn't be there. Oh, shit. That's really interesting, actually.
And then they had and their last one they had, it was throw a sandbag over one of those electrical spools, and you do 2 of them, and you get 2 rounds, and you go shoot at your target. And obviously you get more points if you hit your target. Like you get like a 10-second deduction or what have you, versus an addition versus a miss penalty. So you want to like get those shots. I know the first sniper comp, they had a 100-yard pistol shot. And if you hit the pistol shot at 100 yards, you had 30 seconds taken off your time or something like that. Kind of like a bonus stage.
Yeah. It's very video game-like.
Right.
Like you're really trying to hit these targets to reduce your overall time. So in the team, is your partner like sighting for you? Like we've all seen the movies where the guy's got the goggles, like, hey, the wind drag is 30 knots, and then adjust for this. Like, is he giving you these commands while you're sitting there, Bradley Cooper and just being cool and then waiting to pull the trigger to get the joy? Right. Is that what we're doing?
Well, I mean, that is part of it. A part of it will be obviously I'll be spotting for the longer distance shots.
Wow.
He'll be spotting for me. And again, that means there's got to be good communication. There's got to be commonality between your scopes, shooting mills versus MOA. It's a whole nother language.
Wow. And so your partner in this, like, is this like your OG partner? Like you've been training with the guy, or is it? How
right
is that
now
going?
we're training separately. We're getting out. Hopefully, we'll get out to a quarry that him and some friends have access to, that we can go out to 1,200 meters if we need to practice on, and just to get our comms up and our communication skills. But I've been working with this gentleman, training with another company for quite some time, and him and I have done room clearing together, done a lot of stuff together that we move very well. It's actually almost scary how well we kind of blend together. So despite not having actually been on any action, so to speak, and needing to put any force out there. So
that's wild. It'd be interesting if they do like a randomizer to where they break the partnerships up, and now you got to work with a total stranger and see how quickly you can adapt.
Right.
Like that'd be.
Well, it's funny. That stuff has happened where you pay an entry fee. It's like $300 for a person for these entry fees for these competitions, and you end up like some people, like their partner gets injured or something like that, and they'll literally go on the group, and the groups are amazing. There's like Facebook groups for them, Tactical Games athletes at the Tactical Games Sniper Challenge, and they'll be like, hey, I'm short a partner. Can anybody make, or anybody else missing a partner? And I've seen guys from opposite sides of the U.S. meet in West Virginia and compete together for the first time, but have a blast. And that's what the community's about, and that's what it may be a competition, but you grow friends. Like I've met a mutual friend through Bagman. I mean, Kane Arms, he does custom stuff, custom work.
Mm-hmm.
We've met and connected that way. And it's been, things you wouldn't happen if you weren't doing these events, which is what's amazing about it. It's the camaraderie, the commonality. Everyone's there for a reason. You're there to compete and kick each other's asses, excuse my language, but you're also there for the same reason, because you have a passion for doing this. So it's fun.
I'm excited. We may have to do a road trip, Bagman, and roll out to the tactical games just to watch this. Sounds really, really fun.
Well, there's another company that's doing them called the Patriot Games, and they're down in Florida right now, but they're coming up to Georgia next year. I'm gonna try to shoot that one, and from what I understand, talking to Kane Arms, he's competed in that, and actually placed first in his division. And he likes it a little bit more, only because they add like a concealed carry battle, so where you have to use your concealed carry if you have an optic, that kind of thing. You move out of a car and you do some stuff like that. So they add a little more. Like
get out the car, fire a couple shots, move around this way. Ooh, I've seen that kind of stuff on the internets, and it's orgasmic. I'll say it like that, ladies and gentlemen.
It is fun until you get to haul one of those dummies down the lane to get it back into the back of a vehicle. It's all fun until that part.
Wow, Bagman, this is interesting stuff, man. So, what competition did you just do, sir?
It's going to sound like small potatoes compared to everything Doc just put out there.
You were dragging dummies and checking for wind resistance?
The only dummy I was dragging was myself. No, so my buddy Stu runs a fairly local I.D.P.A match, which is the International Defensive Pistol Association, and it's all, again, based around concealed carry with a handgun and shooting different stages and all that stuff. So think much smaller scale of what the tactical games is doing, that you've got a scenario, you've got a bunch of targets, you have to shoot them in order. There's a whole bunch of rules about how those are scored, and same kind of thing, that you're running for time, and then depending on how you hit or miss the target will impact your score based on points being added to your time. So moved well enough, shot well enough, made some gaming errors is the way I would describe it, and that impacted my score. So the goal is to have the low score. I had the highest score in my division. So the way Stu put it, and apparently this is a quote he borrows from somebody else, is that you have to do three things at your first I.D.P.A match. You have to be safe, you have to have fun, and you have to shoot well, in that order. So I was safe, I had fun, I shot okay. I got invited back, so we'll be back next month. Ange and Rhiannon, also from the network, were also there, also shot really well, had a good time. We're all going back next month. So you are probably going to tag along with us and see what it's like firsthand.
Absolutely. I am.
You need to send me that date, but I need New Jersey compliant mags.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, rules are rules, and we have a lot of those here in Jersey, so you definitely have to change your equipment before start crossing those state lines there, buddy.
Yeah.
So back to Doc. How many rounds do you bring to the tactical games? Like, what's your MO?
So the typical round count is 250 pistol, 250 rifle. Rarely do we ever use all those. This year they came closer because they ran a couple what are called floater battles. Typically there's one shooting base floater, so it's kind of like an I.D.P.A or a two-gun shoot as a stage, and then one is a physical battle. So this year, if you want me to share, it was the shoot was two barrels. I think they're approximately 10 yards apart, side to side. You had to engage. There's three targets, one on the left of the set of barrels, one in the middle, and then one on the other far right side of the set of barrels. You had to engage with your rifle. You had two rifle mags, one with 4 rounds, one with 2. 2 pistol mags, one with 4 rounds, one with 2. And you started with the timer on the beep. You engaged headshots with your rifle on the first target, moved to the second, engage that one, reload at any point, and engage the last target, transition to your pistol, and then A-zone shots with your pistol, 2 on the one on the right, move to the left, shoot the one in the middle, and then engage the last target after a reload and shoot that one. And then it was scored for time. I think I actually scored 6th in my division on that one with a score of 29 seconds with one miss. It was just outside the A zone. So.
Shit. You did all of that in 30 seconds?
Yep. It's amazing what you can get done. The fastest score was one of the elite guys at 16 seconds.
Damn.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened. And then the physical battle was they had yoke bars, which I don't know if you're familiar with, are essentially a set height bar that you had to pick a sandbag up and put it over. They had a 200-pound, 150, 100, 75, and 50-pound sandbag set up in front of every one of these yoke bars, so 4 or 5 yoke bars. And then you had 90 seconds to move as much weight across those bars as you could.
Okay.
So I think all said and done, you come up with a strategy. I'm comfortable under the 150 for a little bit. Moved that. I literally went 150, 100, 75, 50, and just went down the line, back up the line. It ducked under the bar, went back up the line and down until I couldn't move the 150 without pausing. So then I went down to the 100 and it kept the 100, 75, 50 and kept doing that rotation to keep a pace. I ended up moving 2,175 pounds in 90 seconds, I think it was. So
that means you could definitely drag me like a dummy then. When I play the I play the victim in technical games 2024,
right.
You know, got to put your weight up and slide Max out the way and administer some medical care. Whoa.
Right.
This is intense. So is this all one long day or is this like spaced out in a weekend?
So it's a weekend. You get there typically on Friday. You can get in, you do your early entry, you check your gear, your vest. Your vest has to be 15 pounds. I get quote unquote extra credit because I run a 22-pound vest. Doesn't need to happen, but that's the same weight as my duty vest when I'm working with the SWAT team. So I would rather train in that and be ready. Mm-hmm. And then shameless plug to Black Bag. It's Condor vest. It's held up for 4 competitions. So good quality stuff. But and then Friday night, typically I actually went out to eat with a couple of guys that I've gotten to know pretty well. We hung out and then prep. I actually stayed up for about like 2 hours and studied the actual battles for the next day. Just to get used to the rotation, shoot which port from the barricades first, triangle, square, circle, how many rounds, if I have to rotate between ports. Like there is some thinking involved in the competition as well, because you can get procedural error penalties if you don't do what you're supposed to.
So you get like a map, like a layout of the course?
So yeah, they give you, so each battle, think of it as if you've been to a regular I.D.P.A. match or even just a shooting range and you have one bay, you'll have 5 people in your heat and you'll be competing for that activity on that bay from like 12:15 till 12:30, and then your next battle might not be till 2 or 4, and then you're scheduled in a rotation. So.
Wow. That's intense.
One floater that you have to get done.
You camping out for these things, or you go like back to a nice little cozy hotel room?
Oh, I go to a comfy hotel. I am getting a shower. I maybe even an ice bath after some of this stuff.
So not like the old paintball days where we would just sleep at the field and get up at the crack of dawn and start shooting.
Oh hell no! I'm 40 now. Give me that comfy bed, and, a little nip of bourbon before I go to bed.
Nightcaps are a necessity at this state in the game. Wow, Bagman, I'm excited, bro. This is a whole new avenue, man. Whole new avenue.
Well, when we talked about what got you interested in firearms in the first place, you said you were watching videos of different kinds of competitions, 3-gun and different things that were out there, as well as like Keanu Reeves training for the John Wick movies. So these are things that are very accessible and are out there that you can jump into. Obviously, the tactical games is much more physical, but you can jump into an I.D.P.A. match with almost nothing, no experience, anything like that. It would help if you at least have a basic foundation in safety and good firearms handling. But there's a safety briefing that happens beforehand. And as long as you're not really foolish about it, you should be able to at least follow the rules within the safety guidelines, right? So it's out there. We just got to get you into it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we're coming up on almost 30 minutes. People like their gear and they like their brands. So, Doc, what was your loadout for the tactical games, man? Let's hear some humble bragging for the cool equipment that you were bringing out there with you.
So, ironically, I'm lucky enough that my girls and my wife love to get me stuff for Father's Day, of which I've competed with. My Father's Day gift for my rifle was an IWI Zion 15, just a basic AR, and actually it was a blem model. She was all nervous about it being cheaper because it was blemished, but it was superficial stuff. And honestly, in the tactical games, you're banging around. I've got that thing so worn in now that it's fun looking. But it wasn't, any of the errors were not the rifle's fault. So I mean, stock rifle for $600 I'm competing with. I got an optic on top of it. I'm lucky enough. Last year, I got picked up by I.D.P.A Optics, and I run his optics on all my competition rifles. So I run a 1x6 variable, what's called a variable powered optic. I've had that out to successful hits, 2 out of 3 at 405 yards.
Damn.
At the last competition on a steel plate. And then a pistol. I run a Canik rival. I'm running against guys that are running, 2,000, 3,000 STI, pistols that are STIs, and I forget all the Dan Wessons and what have you. And I'm running my Canik, and that thing ran in the rain and the dust. I can't complain. So, and then all the vest is the Condor. The belt is G-Code. I swear by their stuff. I've ran that for 3 comps now and had no mag carriers fall off, no mags lost. So, and that's doing a lot of jumping over obstacles and all other stuff. So,
no shotgun in the tactical games.
No, that's more of a 3-gun thing. And I'll be honest with you, I've tried the tac reloads and the shotguns, the quad reloads. I cannot do those. I can do the 2 reloads. Shotgun is something I need improvement on.
Okay. Tactical was when they grab like 4 shells and just cram them in.
Yep. Yep. Pretty much. Yep.
Okay.
So the quad load. So, but yeah, that's just rifle and pistol. And actually, ironically, you talk about safety. Black Bag they run no rounds in the firearm or mag, or in the mag, essentially the mag well. You don't load until you get to the line, and then you have to show clear after you get them your shot, a shooting series, and including dropping the hammer on your rifle on a closed bolt just to make sure there's nothing in the chamber, which is hit or miss when it comes to the group. Why you need to do that if you're on safe and you've been dropped your mag and everything. So and they stopped as well. We don't sling our rifle as much anymore. You leave it on the firing line. So
when you transition from your rifle, so you don't have it on you on a sling, so you just put it down and then you draw from your holster for the handgun?
Correct. And under the current evolution of safety protocols, last year you had your rifle slung unless you were going over an obstacle. Then you put it at the side of the obstacle you were going over if you were vaulting over something. But they were finding that too many people were, getting flagged. I trained personally to reach barrel over my right shoulder, reach and bring my barrel down in front of me. Other guys are grabbing their butt stock and whipping their barrels back towards everyone else that was observing. So that was a safety worry. So they changed that up in this last year.
Huh.
So, yeah.
Bagman, is the pacing of competition like a hurry up and wait, or do they usually like flow? You're not just spending a lot of time sitting around waiting for your number to come up.
So I also have the benefit of having run a competition. I used to run the Minuteman Challenge with a partner, and we set it up so that when it was working well, you didn't have a whole lot of downtime. And I find that to be true with my experience with Stu's I.D.P.A match. It was the same kind of thing. We had 11 or 12 participants that were there. So they split us up into 2 groups, and one group would run one stage and the other group would run the other stage. And you just alternated shooters. So group 1 would run a shooter, group 2 would run a shooter, group 1 would run a shooter, group 2 would run a shooter, and you're alternating back and forth. So yeah, if within your group there's some downtime, but there's never really a quiet moment on the range. Something's always going. Either somebody's shooting or targets are being scored and plastered so that they're ready for the next shooter. Yeah, that's an administrative thing on the part of whoever's running the event to keep it moving fluidly so that there isn't a lot of downtime in between. With what Doc's doing at the tactical games, it's much bigger, and because it's so much more involved, the safety protocols are going to be much more strict, and there's going to be some downtime to that just to make sure that everything is clear and safe and all that. But it's the same thing with I.D.P.A, and I'm going to talk about it like I've done more than one. But, at the end, when you finish your stage, the RO asks you to make safe and show clear. So you unload, you lock your slide open, you show it to the range safety officer so they can see that the magazine is out and there's no round in the chamber. And again, it seemed like something redundant to me, but these things are all done based on experience. Then they tell you to close the slide and pull the trigger, point the gun down range and pull the trigger, to be doubly sure, triply sure, because he's checked it, I've checked it, and now I'm demonstrating that the firearm is unloaded before I'm allowed to reholster. So the safety protocols are important because nothing ruins a good time like an accident. And I think it's to everyone's benefit to do everything they can to avoid that. So, Doc's told me about some of the things they do, and like he just said, with changing the way the rifles are carried or not carried is important to keep everybody safe. Because like I said, the last thing you want is to have an accident. No reason to turn fun into a tragedy.
Yeah, I get you. Do you have a sponsor for this episode, Bagman?
Sure, the Black Bag Resources Network. Max is going to drop a link, and you can check it out for yourself. We've got Doc there, runs a group. Our planning and prep for the podcast is done there. We have Mike Wolf from Justifiable Force, who runs a course in there. The Black Bag Resources Inner Circle is there, and we don't have any of the problems with A, dorks on the internet running their mouths and causing problems, and B, overzealous fact checkers and admins shutting pages down and destroying the system just because they don't agree with a conversation on guns taking place.
Yeah, that's the BBRN, ladies and gentlemen. Check the show info, and the link will be there. Maybe I can squeeze in a QR code to make it even easier for people to find the network.
I have one. I can send it to you.
Do that, sir.
There you go.
Do that. Let's make it easy for the people to get the info that they should have.